It's 5 o'clock. At this time, I'll call a work session for Monday, May 20, 2019. To order, please. We have a quorum. Item 3 are items for review and discussion. 3A are appearances. 3A1 is a discussion of the alcoholic beverage ordinance. Mr. Nelson, Queen and Nelson.
Hey, how are y'all?
Good.
Council members, my name is Adam Nelson. I am born out, an attorney with Fleming and Nelson. I work for a law firm that specializes in local government practice. I met your assistant city manager and Councilman Walker at a presentation that I gave in Greensboro, Georgia, regarding some changes that we made to their alcohol ordinances there, specifically related to a brewery that moved into Greensboro, but just in general, some of the ordinances and changes that a city might want to consider if they were looking to revamp their alcohol ordinances, or maybe look to see if there's some things that they don't have that they can change. And after working with your staff, I have come up with a proposed new set of alcohol ordinances. I will pass them around. I think you all have electronic copies, but even though I don't look like it, I like to hold things in my hand. And I'm not from the generation of being comfortable with just what's on the screen. So I wanted to provide you guys with a hard copy so you have a chance to look over, make comments, ask questions about what's in the packet. Now, I think that comes in at about 25 pages, so I certainly don't anticipate you're going to read that while I'm talking to you right now. At the top of that clip is a card that has my contact information on it. My hope, and I'm not sure how you guys operate, but I wanted to provide you an opportunity to read through it, make comments, ask questions, speak to anything that's in there, and let me give you feedback or receive the feedback and make changes as necessary. But to generally state about what we did, what I proposed, it's basically a revamp. Alcohol ordinances in general, every once in a while you want to go back and make sure that what you have on the books matches what happens in the industry. Alcohol in the state of Georgia is largely left up to the local level. So if you want to serve alcohol or allow the service of alcohol, you have to do it on the local level. So what we've done is we've looked at what your ordinances look like today and kind of made some changes based on the way the industry is headed, the way service happens in other areas. Specifically, we have revamped your licensing structure. Currently, right now, your licenses are typically either by the drink or on off-site consumption. I have proposed a class system that will simplify, explain that if you get a certain type of license that you would apply for a certain class of license, and that allows you as a body to more pinpoint regulate that particular type of license. So if you wanted to say, I wanted hotels to be served like this, or I wanted our breweries to look like this gives you the ability to really drill down and make changes to it. I have attempted to put together what works for you guys, after talking with your staff, understanding things like hours of operations, some of the regulations that you have in place, some of the things that you take into consideration when whether or not to give somebody an alcohol license. I've tried to maintain that, including your taxes, excise taxes, making sure that none of that changes. Some of the other things that you put in place already, like the brunch bill that you considered last year, the restaurant district that you created, those things were maintained in there. In general, the concept was to just update what you have, and not to make anything big changes, but to also try to move forward with how the industry is working. I keep a very open approach to what we do, and I will not lie to you that a lot of what you have before you is taken from other jurisdictions that have had success with how they regulate their alcohol uses. Those are not from the city of Perry. So you guys may have specific examples or ways that things work that would be better for you. And so that's kind of what I'm here for, is to show you kind of what I see, and then to get feedback from y'all as to what would be something that would be better for y'all. Giving you a lot of information, but feel free to look that over. Like I said, I've given you my information to talk to me about it, and I would certainly coordinate through your assistant city manager too, to work with me so far. If you have specific questions or anything you want to talk about, that's what I'm here for.
Questions, council?
I don't have any at this time. Could we
Yes, sir.
schedule you to come back after we cut off?
I certainly could. I didn't really get to do my intro. I'm from Augusta, Georgia, but I went to Mercer for 7 years. My wife worked in Warner Robins for a while. So this is all, I've been to Perry Fair several times. So it's good to come back and see y'all, and I hopefully can, if y'all have anything specific that you wanted to get in, that we didn't get in there, that's the hope, because ordinances, they're easy for me to sit there and draft, but until you as a council review them, I'm not really sure that I got in there what you wanted, so.
But correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have sent this out to all of our department heads that are involved in all of the work that entails alcohol and gotten comments from them. And Mr. Gilmore, I think you've had some input in, have you?
Oh, I stayed away from it. Yeah, boy. There's been a very good flow of information back from the city attorney's office and the city staff with, Mr. Nelson. So in fact, I think he's already made a number of adjustments that were pointed out to him. Be remembered, just Mr. Nelson's gracious on it and everything, but our alcohol beverage license is quite primitive. It has not been changed, compared to a number of things that the General Assembly has allowed now and everything. So that's why Mr. Smith felt it was very important for us to update it. You may remember we talked about that, before. So I think we're very fortunate to have Mr. Nelson and his firm take care of this for us.
And I guess the real thing that concerned me was the fact that we're out soliciting people to come to town for such as a brewing company or a brew pub and, even growlers and those things, and we had no ordinance in place. We're inviting them to come, we don't know how we govern them, so it was important.
It's been, I apologize for interrupting you. It's been very interesting in this industry how much economic development has been tied to craft breweries, distilleries, those things. It's been a real explosion, and I do think that when you as a city decide, rather than, my experience in Greensboro was we got the brewery first and then we wrote the ordinances, and that was just because it happened that way. But I think from a standpoint of trying to attract people to come in, if you have the ordinances on the book already, you are much more ready to go. You're shovel ready, you can start your operation immediately. And some of these industries, especially with breweries, distilleries, those kind of things, they don't want to start a couple of months from now. They would rather begin immediately. And I've even seen where they will move product from another location to immediately start the sale. In other words, they won't manufacture it here first. They will start their operation before then. And so if you have somebody who is looking for a place, your proximity to the interstate, the areas that you have around here, I think you're a very attractive climate for something like that.
Other thoughts, comments?
Yeah. Sir, well, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all's time. Next time will be more exciting. We'll have, juggle or whatnot. But thank y'all very much. And if you have any information you can get to me, feel free to contact me directly.
Thank you, Joe. Go. Item 3A2 is marketing opportunities.
Well, thank you very much. Hopefully everybody by now knows who I am. I've been presented with a marketing opportunity that I very much want to try to take advantage of, but I need some help with it. The MBAA, National Business Aviation Association, is a very large association. They've got over 11,000 companies that participate in their association. These are primarily aviation-related companies. They have, on their website, they have over 110,000 visitors per month. 7 million pages are viewed per year. So this is a very large organization that gets a lot of aviation business corporations that deal with them. So this is not just people that own aircraft. These are corporations that own the larger aircraft, but it's also corporations that do business within the aviation industry. What they are providing or what they are telling us that they will be able to do. If we buy into their marketing program, they will put the Perry Houston County website impression 220,000, over 200 times, 220,000 times in the next year, the impression, they'll give us an impression. So what that means is that they will take a page of our website, a small snippet of it, and you've seen this when you've gone to Google and you see an ad pop up when you put something in, and you're looking for something, but an ad pops up. That's an impression. And if you look at the typical click-through rate, if we're given over 200,000 impressions, we're going to get 1,600 click-throughs. That means individuals in the aviation business are going to come to the Perry Houston County Airport website. What we're trying to attract to Perry Houston County Airport, obviously, is businesses, aviation-related businesses, but also businesses that might want to be in the proximity of an airport but can't be on the airport. So what we're looking at here is designing a web page, which we have already designed. It's actually one page, and this is a little hard to see because what we've done is put it all onto a PowerPoint page. But it's one continuous page where this would show up first. And as you arrow down, you will arrow down to these other pages or these other parts of the page. So up at the very top, the first thing we do is show them a very quick economic development opportunities that are at the airport. We list some of the statistical data that you're going to get right off of the Houston County Economic Development page, as well as off the Perry Economic Development. We're putting that information up first. The very last piece is actually a Google map of the airport and the surrounding area that shows the amount of acreage, arrows it out and lines it out and shows the amount of acreage that is available for economic development. Now, I can't honestly tell you whether or not we'll get anything from these 1,600 click-throughs or not. But the opportunity to put the face of the Perry Houston County Airport 220,000 times in front of business aviation is an opportunity I want to at least try for a year and see how it works out. Now, what I'm looking for and what I need help with is the cost. This is a $5,000 cost, and it's outside, as it is, it's outside of my current budget in order to fund this solely from the airport. And I'm looking for $1,000 from the city. I meet with Houston County Economic Development tomorrow, and I hope to get $1,500 from them. I can handle the cost of the web page. I can handle half of the cost of it, $2,500. It's neat. In order to fit this in my budget, I need a little bit of extra help. Any questions or anything?
What's the total amount you need from the city?
$1,000 from the city is what I'm asking for. 1,000.
Questions?
Yeah.
Good idea.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I think I'm supposed to hand that back here somewhere.
It's a steal. I can't believe what a good deal. You get a jump on it right away. No, I think it's, well, number one, it goes along the lines of what you all have talked about before, is marketing our different aspects and everything. And this is appears to be a very good focus group to try and get their attention and everything. The fact that the proposal from the airport authority is to spread the costs among the other economic development partners and everything, I think is a good idea. So I'd recommend to you all to say, yeah, we'll kick in our $1,000.
Can we take this from a hotel motel tax?
We'll take it somewhere.
We got to take it from somewhere, you know.
Move forward. Council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good. You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 3B is the fiscal year 2020 operating budget. 3B1 is the Perry Police Department. Chief?
Good afternoon, everybody.
If I can get through this way, no?
Yes, sir, it will. Excuse me. Look at what you did.
We turn it on, it works. appreciate y'all having me here today, although I'm not sure I had a choice, but I'm happy to be here nonetheless. And I'm going to continue the theme that started last time we had meetings. We're not going to take issue with most of the recommendations the city manager had. We got, you know, not everything we asked for, of course, but we got plenty to operate with, and we're happy for that. And, you know, the city takes care of the police department, and we do appreciate that. I want to talk about a couple of things, but I promise you I'll be pretty brief. As with every organization, the employees are the heart of Cary PD. They work hard for the citizens. I mean, they work long and hard. As you know, we work 24/7, 365, no matter what the weather is. When it's bad weather, there's more of us out working. And so they work extremely hard, and they are the key to making the city as safe as it is, and to every success that we've had. So I always have to start by talking about the employees. You may or may not know, you know how many city events we have now, but there's all kind of other events that the police department supports that are community events, special events, city events, and all that. I believe our current count is kind of a changed number. Right now it's 51 events for this year, which that's more than 4 a month on average. Now, sometimes they may require only a single officer, sometimes they may require 25 officers. It depends on the event. In addition to a lot of other demands, extra duty stuff at the Art Center, the Rozier Park, just on and on and on. But by and large, they handle this without complaint. Right now, we've got 3 positions open. We know we've got 1 more coming open at the end of this month with the event of Leon Roberts retirement after 35 years of service to the city. And we've got 2 people currently in the academy, 2 waiting to go to the academy on July the 8th. We've got 1 certified officer who starts next week, and we've got 5 other people in the background process as we speak. And we've got 2 interviews scheduled for next week. So we're moving ahead, and we'll have the positions filled as soon as we can. Our service population, y'all know this, around 17,000, but we have over 1 million visitors a year that come to the city, and that, of course, creates stuff for the police department to do. You know, some good stuff, some not so good stuff, but still stuff. By our interstate exits every day, we have an average count of 46,000 cars. Now, I don't really know how many of them stop in Perry, but I'm willing to bet there's at least a few every day that stop in Perry to do something. So that adds to us. And on top of that, we're covering 27.5 square miles, which by way of reference, Warner Robins, which is a much larger city population-wise, is about 30.5 square miles. So in footprint, we're almost the same size that they are. Now, we have a good bit of roadway that doesn't have houses in it, but still, it's an area to cover. Last year, we did 32,243 calls for service. That was a 9% increase of the year before, 2,600 and some odd calls. We were the only law enforcement agency in Houston County that had an increase in calls for service. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing. We've just got a lot of traffic here. We've got more housing starts than anybody else. There's just a lot of stuff going on in Perry. We've got all these events that, you know, people come from outside to attend. And we do a lot of self-initiated stuff, which is what allows us to get out here and interrupt crime cycles and to keep our crime rate low, which we were able to lower it again last year for 5 out of the last 6 years. That's the Part 1 crimes, the most violent crimes, and significant property crimes that are reported to the FBI. We've got a couple of strategic partnerships that I want to talk about. We've got one of over 6 years duration with the Houston County Sheriff's Drug Squad. And I know y'all heard me talk about drug stuff here in the past, but this is a very successful partnership. The sheriff has invested a good many resources. He's doubled the size of the drug squad in the last 3 years, which in this case is from 2 to 4 officers in that drug squad. And we participate in that on an as available, as needed basis. But this is a very successful, and I briefed y'all back in January about some of those bigger cases we've worked with the drug squad and with the FBI. And we're currently have Detective Jason Jones is assigned as a member to the FBI Regional Safe Streets Drug Task Force, which was created within the last year by the FBI in recognition of the need for more resources for state and local law enforcement agencies. Now, we were invited to participate. It's an invitation-only thing, and so that was kind of a nod to the good work that we're doing already. These are both very important partnerships because it gives us access to a lot of resources that we either couldn't afford or just don't have to buy. We couldn't afford them because of our size. You know, we can't, you know, get an aviation unit here just as we need it, or the equipment to track cell phones, or just any other, not just tons and tons, it's a lot of personnel for a big operation. But it also gives us a jurisdictional reach that matches the reach of the criminal enterprises, because they can go anywhere. They're not bound by any laws and regulations like we are. But as a city police department, a municipal police department, we're locked into our jurisdictional guidelines, which is the city limits. And but by partnering with with the Sheriff's Office, which has statewide jurisdiction, and the FBI, which has nationwide jurisdiction, that gives us a much better reach. And also, by having a seat at the table, it gives us an opportunity to focus on local issues as well. Because if we can identify an issue here in Perry, then we can get resources to focus on it that are much greater than we can bring to bear, just as Perry PD, which allows us, since we have a seat at the table and we're part of the conversation, we can say, we've got this issue here, and we got resources we can bring to bear. I think that's really important. And this covers, as far as that federal task force, it's the entire middle district of the state of Georgia. The federal agencies are divided into 3 regions across the state. So we go as far as Athens, really, from here. So I've got one ask for the budget, and that is that you fund the investigator position that we requested in the budget. I've briefed you, as I mentioned, in detail a couple of times on that. I'm not going to go back over that unless you want to. I'm happy to. But we've covered it. We've talked about criminals aren't bound to the same jurisdictional lines we are. And we've got the partnerships in place. We've got a plan to make all that work. By having this position, it allows us to fully participate and still handle all the other services that the citizens of Perry expect us to do. So, the way forward on that, when we met with the city manager as part of our budget process, and we have this very helpful meeting where we sit down and he goes over our request, tells us what his recommendations are, and then we have a conversation. Well, during the conversation this year, he kind of proposed a way forward for us. And the challenge to us was find a way to add this position without increasing the number of sworn positions that we have. So that's, I guess, a zero-sum game as far as our sworn force. So we looked at that, and we found where we can convert a sworn officer that's in an administrative position to a civilian employee. And for the city manager, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, so Mr. City Manager, if you want to correct the record if I'm wrong about any of that, please I have do. no idea what you're talking about. That's false. I've got witnesses, so we're. Oh, you're going to stop there. Okay. So I guess we're down to any questions. I would like to say, we do appreciate the support that we enjoy from this body, the freedom that we have to do our jobs. We take it seriously from the very bottom to the very top of the organization. And, it's not unusual to see people from any rank working on special events, because we just go out and do that to make it work. We've got a really good, dedicated group of people. We're always striving to hire the best, which I guess at times ends up in some state agency hiring people away, like the GBI's hired 3 of our people. Sounds like they're about to hire a 4th one. State Patrol's looking at one, so
I kind of look at that as a badge of honor for the city of Perry. You know, we're hiring the very best. Sometimes somebody's going to come off with money we can't give them and hire them away. And we hate when that happens, but at the same time, we know that's because we have the highest standards and we're hiring the best officers we can. And I think that's about it for me, unless, Major, have I forgotten anything?
No, sir, you covered good.
Okay, Captain?
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, that's it, unless y'all have questions.
If I may, following up on Chief Lynn's point, we did talk about this, and because of the flexibility that the police department has indicated, while it may not appear to be that much of a change, it's a real significant change, particularly relative to what has to be funded with the property tax. And that was one of the primary things I had said, was that we are not going to increase the property tax. Have found a way to take care of that, making some adjustments internally, and so I think, if council agrees, we will be able to proceed with the request.
That's good news.
I think very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mr. Gilmore, for working with the department in order to help them accomplish the goal. Anything further, council? Item 32 is Perry Fire and Emergency Services Department. Chief Parker.
Yes, Mayor, Mayor and Council, thank y'all for the opportunity to come before you. I've got a few slides to go through and we'll try to make it pretty quick. Again, the fire department is very satisfied with what the city manager offered us, but I wanted to hit some highlights from 2019. Of course, we filled 8 vacancies with new firefighters. You graciously gave us 2 new pickup trucks. One was a battalion vehicle and one was a utility truck. And I got pictures in the next few slides. We were able to complete construction on the Davis Farm Annex, which gave us a lot of interior storage for extra apparatus that were sitting outside. Also gave us a classroom building that we could do some training in. A big improvement over what we've had in the past. And then you also allowed us to renovate the fire station due to some issues we had there, but that is all complete now and we are back in business. So here's our 8 new firefighters. All these have been before you at a council meeting. You have met them. And they're all certified now and happy to be aboard. And currently we're operating only with 1 vacancy, which was a captain's position we haven't promoted yet. But we'll get to that here in the next few months. These were our 2 new vehicles you allowed us to purchase. We've had both these here. Of course, the Battalion 1 is our incident command vehicle. The battalion chief's riding that every day. And then our utility one, we call that our logistics vehicle. That can carry used fire hose back and forth from a fire scene back to the station to be cleaned up. It can carry personnel, all types of logistical support that we need on a scene or off a scene. We can use that vehicle for that. Very great additions to our department. We're thankful. Of course, the Davis Farm Annex, you see there we had the uncoupling ceremony, very well attended. You see some pictures there of the classroom and the storage area. We're again very appreciative of what you allowed us to have in this new facility and the opportunity we're going to have to do some training out there as well. And then of course we renovated our Station 1, 2 new HVAC units, 1 for upstairs, 1 for downstairs, new flooring throughout the facility there, and added a second shower upstairs for the firefighters. And it's really going to help out a lot. And again, like I said, we're very thankful for what you gave us this past year. So as far as our budget goes, you know that the fire department is supported by the general fund and the fire protection fund. General fund, $1.6 million there. The fire protection fund, about a little over $2 million, for a total of about $3.7 million is what we're operating with out of the 2 funds there. You see where we line up out of the general fund, we're about 10% of the general fund. And you can see where our expenses go. A lot of those, 89% are for personnel. and then supplies and some capital and things like that in the general fund. And then when we look at the fire protection fund, there we have 21 firefighters plus the fire marshal coming out of that fund there, along with our part-time firefighters and support services, and that's where we're buying parts for vehicles and things like that. So again, we're trying to spend all our money wisely, and like I said, we're thankful for what the manager allows us to use. You see our response area. What I've done here is you have this in the board pack. It's very difficult to read on the screen here, but if you could see it, what I've done is kind of cut off. This shows from April 2017 to April 2019, 2 years worth of responses. And I drew a line at the 150 mark. So all these areas, which are your strategic planning areas on the map over here on the side, and what we can do is kind of look at this and see where do we respond the most. And some of these are obviously in your districts, but the number one area is exit 136. Like the police chief said, we have a lot of traffic gets off of that exit, and a lot of things happen there. So it's number one for EMS calls, number one for fire calls, and number one for false alarm. But then, obviously, number two is the north side area, which includes Old Field, the Country Club, and around Inverness Drive and those areas. And again, I won't go through all of them, but you can kind of see there. We're looking at about 2,000 calls per year. That's what the fire department responds to. That's sure enough emergency calls, whether it's a false alarm or a fire or EMS call. So again, like I said, we're thankful for what we have, but we do have a few things I want you to be aware of and we want to watch for in the future. Of course, we requested 6 additional firefighters and 1 additional fire inspector. Of course, this would help optimize our staffing on our larger apparatus and assist with the growing requirements of the inspections. Like we said, we're building more homes. There's other commercial buildings coming to town, and with all the inspections that are going on there, we're getting most of them done, but it would help out to have a little assistance there with another fire inspector. We did request an all-terrain vehicle. I've got a picture here on the next slide, but looking for something that gives us some off-road capability with our parks and our nature trails that we can get around. If we had to pick up somebody that falls and breaks a leg or has a medical emergency, then they can't, they're not ambulatory anymore, they can't move, then we can pick them up and bring them back to the hard surface to put them into an ambulance and let them be transported to the hospital. It's not for us to transport them there. And then of course, we have an older fire engine that I did request some funds for that. So basically, one of the reasons about the staffing, you hear us, the last couple of years we've asked for additional staffing. Just to kind of bring that to light, one of the things that we did, you allowed us to, a couple of years ago, we went with the rescue idea, which was very good. And just to give you an idea, we bought Rescue 1 for EMS calls, and then we got Rescue 2. To date, let's see where I put that. Rescue 1 up here has responded to 1,435 EMS calls or car wrecks and things of that nature. So that's that many times the big truck didn't have to roll out, okay? Now sometimes it may go with it depending on the size of the accident or things like that, but again, buying the rescue truck for $100,000 versus a $400,000 or $500,000 fire engine, we got the smart decision there. But what that did for us, where before we had 4 person on the pumper, 4 person on the truck, now we've got 3 people on the pumper, 2 people on the rescue. So we've kind of split our resources around, and that makes it a little bit harder to do some of the things that we should be able to do. Not that we can't do them, they're just coming in different vehicles. So they may be a little bit slower, but just to give you an idea, that's kind of the reason we're asking for the extra staffing. Then of course, like I said, the fire inspector, the fire marshal's busy with things that he does, like plans review, life safety inspections, meeting with builders, all these kind of things that he takes care of on a daily basis. And then he does get around to doing fire inspections as well. And like I mentioned here, we do have on-duty firefighters that are going out and doing inspections also. But with them having to do their daily duties, responding to fire calls, responding to EMS calls, and other chores and things that they have to do, it makes it difficult to get to them in a timely manner. Not that we can't do it, but it makes it a lot more difficult. When we talk about the all-terrain vehicle, we're looking for something along these lines. It wouldn't necessarily have to be the Polaris. It could be most any vehicle. We have the little bed here in the back. That's removable. It can fit in almost all the different styles of vehicles that are on the market. That bed fits there. It's called a med bed. It has a space for a attendant or a medical person to sit, and then a place for the basket or the patient to lay in there. But again, we have so many events downtown. This could be a quick access vehicle in there. Big Indian Creek Nature Trail, Rotary Centennial Park, and of course, when Heritage Park comes on board, there are some areas in there. It's not good for the big fire trucks to go off-road. Okay, we don't like to get them off the asphalt, because if they get stuck, it's a pain to get them unstuck. But so this is the kind of vehicle we're requesting as well. Then of course, the last thing I'll mention here is our 2006 pumper. We had this truck out of service for a little while, but it's back up and running. But it's older, and it's the one that our brand new and replaced that y'all bought us this past year. But it does need some work, and we'll be able to do a little bit of work at a time as we move along. But we're estimating about $55,000 is what we needed. But again, we can do some things as we go along and get those things done. So with that, we're very pleased with the proposal from the manager. Wanted to just justify and talk about some future needs that we may have, and thank you for your time. And are there any questions that I can answer for you at this time? Okay, thank y'all very much. Thank you.
Mayor and Council, just one clarification point, in case there's some misunderstanding. Our folks are not going out on EMS like an ambulance unit. Remember, we talked about that issue? They are going out as first responders. Didn't want to have confusion with the public, I think that's, you're very strong about that with your policy relative to our city.
And that hasn't changed.
No, not one item.
Very good. Any other comments? Thoughts? Thank you. Item 3B3 from the city clerk's office. Ms. Warren?
Yes, sir, I'll be brief. The office of the city clerk is very happy with the recommendations from the city manager for the FY 2020 budget.
Imagine. Congratulations, you do a fantastic job. Having to look after this batch around this table. To start with, thank you, Ms. Warren. Probably we got reports due June 1, right?
July 1st.
July 1st? Okay. Good deal. Item 3B4 is the office of the city manager, Mr. Gilmore.
Well, I was very upset with the city manager's recommendation. I don't know what happened, we worked it out.
I was going to ask if we need to go in executive session to discuss. Questions for the city manager from council? Very good. Thank you. Item 3C is Economic Development Department. 3C1 is discussion of coolers at city parks for special events. Ms. Hart.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm going to have a discussion with you all about bringing coolers to city parks for special events only. We have some events coming up where we're going to showcase some of our city parks, such as the Perry Presents Music Series. And then also wanted to let you know that the Perry Music Festival is also officially a city event. Currently, you guys allow coolers to be brought to the UGA versus Florida tailgate that's scheduled in September. And that's great because it's a tailgate event, so bring our own, right? But with the other events coming up, and we want to showcase city parks, and Heritage Park will soon be under construction. So we just wanted you guys to have a discussion about allowing BYOB for special events only. for the Perry Music Festival, which is going to be at Rotary Centennial Park, and Perry Presents Music Events.
Are those the only events that we're talking about?
Currently, yes.
Yeah, for those events.
For the scheduled ones for this fiscal year, we'll be, later, and we'll be scheduling out our 2020 events with our new special events coordinator, and she'll be adding some new ones. But for the music ones specifically, and for the Perry Presents and the music festival, wanted to see what you guys would think about having people bring in their coolers. Some people might look at that as more family friendly. Regarding parking at some of them, like Rotary Centennial, I don't know if it would be logistics, getting beer vendors in there. I think people, it may be easier. And we talked to Chief Lynn, and he did mention it would be no glass containers, and he said that they would check coolers as people came in, but they could put an on-site check and make sure that people didn't have glass.
We talked about this before for the Perry Music Festival at that specific location, and some of the issues that it caused in the past. And refresh my memory, we did not allow it last time, is that correct?
For the last 3 years.
Last 3 years. Is there any specific reason other than just having the availability that you wanted to do it to change that particular policy? And then the reason that's not necessarily a loaded question. The reason I ask is that we had some issues in the past, not terribly serious, but this council struggled with this decision for a long time. And came to the conclusion that it would be best just not to have coolers. And y'all correct me if I say something wrong, at that particular location. Now, once it moves, it might change things from that standpoint.
I think we were kind of looking at too, like if we're going to allow it at Perry Presents for the concert series, that maybe we should allow it at all of them, because now the music festival is a city event. So it's like, well, if you do it for one, you have to do it for the other, and be fair to everybody.
But we're not going to do that, because, as I understand it, because on Food Truck Fridays, we're not going to allow people to bring coolers down there for that.
Right.
That's the most business in the downtown area, so I would not be in favor of bringing coolers to those events. I mean, we're there to promote the businesses of people who are bringing into that area, so.
Right.
So I don't, I wouldn't be in favor of doing that. If we're talking about all of them,
Right.
I'd say we wouldn't do it any of them.
Right, and she's looking more at parks specifically versus
Parks.
city events. We're not asking for city events, we're just looking for city events at the park. It's currently Heritage and the UGA versus Florida Tailgate, it's allowed. So we just wanted you guys to consider if you would allow it at other city parks for city special events.
Do you open up the confusion of when and where you're going to allow and the things voting is that I think that question is asked.
Also, we can't control what people put into a cooler. And that's another event we have to look at, I say, most time, anytime you have an event going on that some people want to take advantage of,
Mm-hmm.
They'll fill their cooler up with liquor or beer or wine or whatever. And then if somebody else ain't got none, they'll wind up selling it to them in the park. I don't know whether we can control that or not, but that's something that has to be considered. And I don't know whether she may have enough people that we don't want to get in, like you were saying, we don't want to get in the idea of checking everybody cooler and saying that we don't trust you, but the
Right.
concept, we got to have some kind of regulation or some kind of rule that to let the people know that it's not that we're bad guys, but there's a lot of people be at the park, some things got to consider. Some people would drink too much and then they start acting out. And I know Chief Lynn and may feel ready to arrest somebody, then first thing is that y'all just want to get people drunk and arrest them, but that's not how we want to do it, But the concept here, the thing is, we just have to consider, that's how I feel about it. I think it's something, we just have to think about it and consider how we're going to handle that.
I don't have to think about it. I don't think we should allow them in any of the parks. That's just me. Because if we allow them in one, we should allow them in all. And if we don't allow them any, at Rozier or in Centennial, we should allow them in.
I believe that come back after us, we're being partial. somebody might come down to the city hall and one question of, why you let them do it there, why come you don't let them do it over here? You know? I think there's something, like you said, it was a good point you bring forward, but like you said, for discussion. This is what you said, for discussion. And so we just have to look at it and think, about what Ms. Bonner Gray said, you know what I mean? We don't want, I want to look at one, you know what I mean, because you know one, they start crawling everywhere.
That's a good analogy.
I will give you a counterpoint
Okay.
on that while you're.
On the worms or the cooler?
I don't have one for the worms. I think one of the other things that's important to remember too is we are talking about wanting to do a lot of stuff for families.
Right, okay.
And an awful lot of families like to bring their baby formula, their soft drinks, their sandwiches, all this type of stuff to these type of events. And you go to, events, for example, in, was it Chastain Park? Up in Metro Atlanta, a lot of these other areas where we are, like I've said before, we're in competition with, and that's what they are allowing to come in. So I think it would be good to keep it. In other words, it's not always, I'll take away you could have some,
Right.
but it's not always a deal that people coming in and bringing alcohol. They have a lot of other type of stuff, and all that is prohibited right now. The other thing, and of course it goes back to where we're talking about doing some of these things, but some of these parks would be good primarily for neighborhood folks to come in, but would be kind of difficult to get any type of vendors, like we're able to do it at Rotary Centennial Park. So I'd like to just kind of keep that in mind as well.
Well, if you do it at one, you have to do it at all, and if you don't do it.
Right. Well, yes, I would totally agree, kind of following with your point and Williams. Whatever you decide, other than the downtown, I think that's a unique animal, it does have to be consistent across the board.
That point happened, like y'all were talking about the park in Atlanta, is there any way we can find out statistic-wise how many of the cities are doing this and what kind of result did they get out after they started doing it,
Yes.
Okay.
We'll be happy to survey that.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you contact somebody like Sugar Hill and Swanee
Right.
and Duluth, who all have amphitheaters
Right.
already in place that do summer concerts and all that, what do they allow? But, it seems to me that until, I don't feel like, and I'm speaking for myself, what I hear around the table is that we're not comfortable with, given where we're having our events right now, that when our amphitheater is finished and some of those other things, maybe it would change the opinion of the council.
And also Heritage Park would be a good place to have it at, Down here, it feels too close to the roadway, anything can happen. We don't need nothing like it. Happen.
And that may be a very good way to come in and handle it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything further, council? Mr. Gilmore?
No, sir.
Thank you. Item 3D is from the Community Development Department. 3D1 will be asked to consider an agreement with GWES LLC relative to Frank Satterfield WPCP capacity evaluation proposal. Mr. McMurray, in English, please.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. In your packets, you do have a proposal for Georgia Water Environmental Service, and that is the wastewater pollution control plan. Quick, brief summary of this. Staff, ESG, myself, Mr. Gilmore has discussed the capacity of the plant for some time. It's at 3 MGD, that's 3 million gallons a day. And we're wanting the permit, yes. Permits for it. The plant can actually do more than that for the most part. We expect it to be around 5. Now, to meet the water quality requirements of the EPD, we have to do a study, prove that it can do it, and complete this to get a permit increase to 5 MGD. The purpose of this is so that we can supply more wastewater capacity and water capacity to the growth of the city, industrial, commercial, and so on and so forth. Georgia Water Environmental Services has 3 tasks we have asked them to prepare the proposal for, which are very in-depth tasks. One is to review the plant data treatment process. Now, 2 is to coordinate with EPD, ESG, and myself, Mr. Gilmore. will prepare reports and findings. That total is the expensive number of $49,620. It is a very detailed, time-consuming process. We recommend using GWES because they are our local consultant. They're very familiar with our system. And that would be staff's recommendation. Any questions?
Sounds to me like that this is the next step in protecting and encouraging future growth in the city from that standpoint. And I think it's something that's necessary and we should probably go forward with if staff is comfortable with these proposals. And that would be my personal opinion.
Plus, I feel the same way. So that we are expanding and the city definitely is growing. And we can see out there when we're traveling, so much traffic out there, you know, houses are being built. I think that'll be good that we get ready and we have things in place so that we can increase the capacity.
Completely agree.
Well, yes, I think you definitely need to do that. And the real advantage with it, because of your foresightedness and planning ahead, is we're not talking about any infrastructure improvements that have to be done. This is just money to go pay an engineer to come in and show EPD what we already know, which is we can increase our permitted capacity without having, well, not kidding with them, but you all don't have to spend any more money other than just this stuff.
There may be,
Uh-oh.
I have a feeling that there may be some filtration requirements. Bert, we won't know that till Bert does the study. So there may be some more filters need to be added to meet new phosphorus requirements that we don't have yet, but they're coming. So this is all part of the
Lie to
study.
me all the time.
Currently, right now, we can meet the 5 MGD, but in the future with new permits, we will not be able to. This is part of my concern.
Right. However, like Chad talked about, this is coming anyway.
That's correct.
You see what I mean? So we could very well have to do it. More importantly is for us to be in a position, both with the new residential construction coming in and any potential commercial or particularly industrial growth within certain limits, you'll be able to have them come in, and we're already set with that.
Any other thoughts, council? Consensus to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Item 3D2, consider revision standards for city street classification. Mr. Wood.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just wanted to give you an update of our streets in the city. We've, as you know, DOT has made some modifications in some of the state routes, and so we've gone in to look at adjusting arterials. We've also looked at breaking what was previously just collector streets into major and minor collectors. I've got some maps here that are on your board pack, but brought these because they show the quality of work that we're getting out of our new GIS group, ESG Engineering. This first map, if you want to kind of pass it around, or there's a couple of others, shows all of the state routes as well as the other collectors, or excuse me, arterials. And so that's what that map is. We've got then the major collectors highlighted in yellow on this map, as well as minor collectors in blue highlighted on this map. The memo that you have in your board pack from the city manager, major collectors would be any streets that have an average daily trip of 1,000 or more, and minor collectors would be anything with an average daily trip of 300 to 999. All of the other streets that we don't meet those classifications would be just standard city streets. The manager is also suggesting that as part of this, accepting these various streets, that we would also suggest certain design standards or assets that go with those. For example, sidewalks on any of the arterials, major or minor collectors. If sidewalks were to be repaired, upgraded, or installed on those streets, that they should use the city's standard concrete with brick striping design. That the streets should all be striped according to federal guidelines, that there would be no speed bumps on any of these streets, and that the speed limit would be as recommended by the police department. And also, he's suggesting that speed be subject to a remote speed device, detection device, or processing. And that's, I guess we're looking into whether or not there are, you see the portable speed limit signs that you drive by, and it says you're driving this fast. And so we're looking to see if those are available, but also would have the ability to take a picture of your license plate and send you a ticket. So that's kind of what we're with that item as well. I wanted to point out for you that on this list, there are a few new streets that have not been designated in the past. That includes Linwood Drive, Inverness Drive, Lay Road, Limerick Road, and somehow there is one other one. But anyway, so those, again, are new based on traffic count. I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Before you get the automatic ticket generator, I think it'll come back before us.
Yeah, and I think we also are checking to see whether or not we actually have the authority to do that.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
These
sir.
are here for y'all to look at.
Any further on that, Mr. Gilmore?
Well, the plan is, unless you all have some objections, you will have a resolution, at your meeting tomorrow, unless you want to stay a little longer and be at your next one, adopting this as a policy for designating these streets. So that way you would not have to have it come to you every single time, or, if the public says, well, why don't you stripe my street? You see what we can go with. Now, you still have the exception. For example, you all did it, I think, on James Street. But normally it would be, we'd run a traffic count, and that makes a determination what the volume is. One of the things I also wanted to point out is you've had some discussion relative to speed bumps, for example, over in Glenwood. But our concern with that is that, particularly with whether it's a major or a minor collector, the traffic volume is going to be an issue relative to noise. No matter what folks say, it is going to be, because you have more vehicles. And we have the petition, but, sometimes that winds up going out the window. The other issue is public safety vehicles. You may remember? Well, I know we talk about staff-wise. I'm sure we talk about council, with the clearance, with them, and what you have to do with the design, particularly with the fire apparatus. But you can also have problems relative to potentially the sanitation trucks, the ambulances, those type of things. The other bigger problem we see with it, and Chief Lynn pointed this out, is that if you take these streets already are naturally acting as the name indicates, collector streets. And if you go and you put some of these speed bumps or traffic calming devices and everything, you wind up seeing traffic shifting over to avoid it. And they start going in through other neighborhoods to go and get around. And we think that just, negates and causes more problems for the surrounding neighbors. And that's why we put in the deal, and of course I understand about coming back and that type of stuff, but that's why but to answer the legitimate concerns from people using the street or residents on there is we do want to also use this to heighten up either through police or maybe some remote device that you all approve speed control. Because that's what actually needs to be done if we have issues on it. So that's the background I'm thinking for that. So if you all, at least right now, don't have any objections, I would like to have this as a resolution coming to you at your meeting tomorrow.
Okay, council. Wait. good.
Thank you.
Item 3E is from the Office of the City Manager. 3E1 is a discussion of an election date for the place meeting. Mr. Gilmore.
Thank you, Mayor. Regrettably, I'm sure it comes as news to everybody, Mayor Fairclough. I'd like to stop putting up with us. I know we gave it a different name, I think, like resigning. But we do need to go in and address that situation. We have provided, I believe, in your board pack, what the qualification dates, what the next upcoming election dates are. Primarily, there's 2 dates. One would be in September, and the second would be in November, which is when we have the city's general elections. And on the November one, we already have 3 council member seats coming up for that. Certainly, it's your choice on what you'd like to do, but at least administratively, would like to recommend to you all that the special mayor's election be held in September, so we don't have any confusion or conflict between that office, and also to get that office filled as soon as we can.
Lee, I don't have it on board pack. What's the exact date there? Is that
I'm sorry. September 17th, does that sound right? Is the election date that we have. Qualifying would be around the middle of July, for anyone who's interested in applying.
What would that do with his council seat? If he chose to run for mayor, he'd have to resign it, would he not?
Yes.
So we go.
Qualifying time.
Yeah. I mean at the
Yeah.
proper time. But we're going to elect a person in his place?
Yes.
And that seat would go on the November ballot, is that correct?
Correct. If you follow the administration's recommendation, the election we would have for mayor would be just for mayor. And then in November, we would have, instead of 3, we have the 4, assuming Mr. Walker elects to resign.
The election for my seat would be a special election. It would not be part of the general election.
Okay.
There may be some discussion relative to the cost, but comparatively, the cost is quite small, for the type of elections that we wind up having, particularly compared to the potential length of time that you wouldn't have the mayor's position filled, and also the fact that you'd have a longer period of time where there would be 2 vacancies, on for the governing authority for the city, and that would not be, I don't think, in the best interest of the city, because you would then have to elect one of the remaining to be a mayor pro tem, which fine, I'm not saying that's an issue, but underneath the normal regular rules and all that type of stuff that you have, then you'd be down to 4 policymakers.
Still have to do that.
Yeah, you'd still have to do it for a shorter period of time, would be more advantageous.
I'm fine with September.
Rob?
I'm sorry?
They said we're fine with the September date.
Yes.
Okay, based on that, we'll proceed as outlined. So the next thing you will be seeing, I believe it will be in your first meeting in June, about the official documentation for you to call for the election. Because you cannot do that until Mayor Fairclough's resignation is effective. That's why you can't do it tomorrow.
I can change it.
Close of business today.
Legal. Fair enough. Anything further on that, council? Mr. Gilmore?
No.
Anything else to come under item 3 for items for review and discussion, Mr. Gilmore?
Okay.
Item 4, council member items, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Walker?
No.
Ms. Jones? No. Ms. Bonner Grace? Mr. King? Mr. Hunt? Mr. Gilmore?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Smith, where are you?
Yes, Mayor. One item, Mayor and Council. This is Public Works Week, and as per usual, we will celebrate our Public Works Department and the city this Friday at Rozier Park with the annual Public Works Cookout. It'll take place at 12 o'clock at the pavilion. We'll be eating inside, actually, but we'll be cooking in the pavilion. Hamburgers, hot dogs. I think we're expecting about 100, 120 people. Hope to see you all there. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Good reason.
Ms. Newby? Thank you. Item 5 are department head and staff items. Ms. King?
Nothing, sir.
Ms. Hart?
I do have an item. Mayor and council, I've been approached by a downtown property owner of the New Perry Hotel, and they wanted to open a dialogue about them participating in the footprint of our Food Truck Fridays. Through an email, a phone call, and an email follow-up, she said that they like to sell hamburgers and hot dogs and drinks and chips for $6 and have kids' activities on their lawn, and wanted to know if we would close Main Street to incorporate that into our downtown footprint of Food Truck Fridays. I did follow up and say, are you guys going to have a food truck, or, regardless, whatever food you're selling, that is subject to the Board of Health. That's not something that the city oversees. And I did talk to our special events coordinator about that, because our last event we did expand our footprint to include Jernigan, which seemed great, and with the concert, the stage right by the courthouse there, that was a good footprint. We should have more food trucks and some on the waiting list that we've actually put on for 26 for the next event, because we always have between 4 and 6 that can't come because of a family emergency or a food truck broke down, that type of thing. So we are going to have more Jernigan next year, or our next event. And I did email the owners on follow-up items on, is this a fundraiser, and how are you guys going to be selling your food, type things. That was Friday, and I have not heard back. But they said they wanted to hope that the city of Perry would work with them and help them find a way to participate in our event. I did advise them that as private property owners, they can do what they want on their property during our events. But their request is closing Main Street to include them and sell $6 hot dogs or chip combos.
Have we not talked about this in the past, about the people wanting to come in with various tents and tables and that type thing, and wanting to set up for various agencies? I think the VA may have been, or somebody associated with him, and at the time, I think we have guidelines, do we not, about specifically who can sell and from what on that. It is my opinion that we should stick with the guidelines that we have already set up. But that's just my opinion. If they wish to participate through an actual food, or a food truck that conforms to the guidelines, then they would get in line with everybody else. That's, I don't want to compromise the event from that standpoint. However, you are correct, they can do whatever they'd like to do on their own property from that standpoint, but that's what I think.
I don't let them know.
Wait a minute, that's just what I think, unless somebody else.
He is the mayor.
One more day. Anybody else have any more comments? Or-
No, we've had this discussion a couple of times. We've had various organizations for fun. We've created a very successful event built around very strict criteria. And we've had people we've had to turn down because didn't have the right equipment. Said you can't bring a trailer in there. I want to bring my, this, that, or the other. And so I think we need to stay with that, because once you do that, then how what can we tell the VA that they can't do it, and the Alzheimer's group that wants to put up a tent and those type of things. So I think
Open up a whole new can of worms.
One concern that she did share with me on the phone was, if they're going to have kids' activities on their property, that, traffic on Main Street, she was concerned that someone could get injured if that road was open.
I think that's for them to consider. They could have it in the back parking lot if they so choose. Think about a food truck, we'd love to have it.
Consensus of council?
Yes.
We'll stick with what we have.
I'll let her know.
Thank you.
You got something to do? You got to say something?
No, I think that's fine, just, I think we ought to just leave it. You understand all the thinking behind it, but the initial response from you all is, yes, you considered it, and at this time, you're not willing to add Washington or Main Street onto the Food Truck Friday event. So just because, like you said, it's up to the Board of Health, they can still do it, they can do it on their own property.
We just opened or closed, having a look at it in Jernigan Street and try to expand it. And if that's not sufficient, given the history that hasn't happened yet, then that might be under consideration in the future. But at this particular point in time, I think we've addressed.
Yeah, following up that, if I may.
Yes.
Not only did you talk about the deal about the food trucks, but you also talked about other off-site vendors.
Right.
Setting up. Now, in this case, it's their own property.
Right.
Remember, but you talked about other groups coming in, even if they had the approval of the property owner, said, no, you can't do that within some distance.
Because we had the problem with a person sitting up over there on the corner of Commerce and Ball, pulling in there and on where the high town is. And so we went and told them, we're too close. So I think we need to treat everybody equally.
Great. Anything further on that, council? Thank you, Brian. Anything further, Chad?
No, sir, thank you.
Mr. Wood?
Nothing further tonight, sir.
Thank you. Anything from your office? Are we buying anything tonight?
No, sir.
Not tonight. Mr. Worthington, are you sure?
Yes, sir. Tomorrow, maybe.
Maybe tomorrow. All right. Ms. Warren?
Nothing, sir.
Thank you. Chief Lynn?
Just one thing, Mayor and Council, just want to remind you, on the 31st at noon at the Art Center, Leon Roberts is retiring after 35 years as a police officer with the City of Perry. We're going to do a catered lunch. It's his day where we're going to honor him, and y'all have received invitations. I'd just like to give you a personal one to come if you have time, can fit it into your schedule. We'll honor him. He's other than Sergeant Hamsley, he's the guy with the most amount of service on the department. So Hamsley's in his 41st year, but Leon's got 35. So that's pretty good milestone. We're going to honor him appropriately, and we appreciate y'all's participation. And that's all I have.
Where is it, Chief?
Art Center.
At the Art Center. Here.
What day? On Friday, the 31st of May.
I think that's a week from this coming Friday.
It is. That's right.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Parker?
Yes, Mayor and Council, just one item, another personal invitation. As you're aware, the fire department spent about 6 months over at the Georgia State Patrol Post. And we are wanting to go over there on May the 28th, which will be next Tuesday, and provide them a dinner or a lunch. We're going to cater it from Sonny's Barbecue. Just have a couple of meats, a few vegetables, and we're going to do that at noon on that day. The post commander should be there. Their staff should be there. And we just want to have lunch with them. We'll clean up everything after we're done and take care of all that. But we want to invite y'all out as well. They didn't charge us a single dime the whole time we were there. They were gracious enough to give us rooms, place to park our apparatus and those things. So we just want to provide and give this back to them for what they helped us, during that time. So you're all invited. I would love to see you there on May the 28th at noon at the Georgia State Patrol Post. It'll be inside their little dining area that they have.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir. That's all I've got.
Ms. Palmer?
Nothing tonight, sir.
No? Do you have anything?
Thank you.
Our next meeting is tomorrow night, 5 o'clock upstairs, and then we have the regular council meeting at 6. If there's nothing else to come before us, at this time, I'll entertain a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of real estate.